Hey everyone, welcome to a Promised Land live podcast here on a Friday afternoon on the new Promised Land YouTube channel. If you're here for the first time, please hit that subscribe button because I absolutely need it at the moment. I only launched this channel like earlier this week. There are so many hyperlinks I would like you to click in order to join various like social channels and like where to subscribe to the audio feed, this kind of thing. And at the moment, I can't even do it because the channel is so new. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I'm just going to get your comments in. Ben McManus has finally made it to a live. Yes, I saw your comment the other day saying that you had never seen one before. So thanks for joining, man. Pleasure to have you here. Get in the comment section all that you like, please. There's so much to talk about today. It always seems to be loads to talk about at the moment with Manchester United. Viktor Gyokeres, Benjamin Sesko potentially going to Arsenal. Could Viktor Gyokeres and the path to Manchester United be opening up a little bit? We've had United's financial results come through today, and all of that, all that panic over the last year, all of the job cuts, which obviously are horrible and awful. All of the difficult decisions that had to be made. I stressed that this is all, I think, in the best interests of the football club, and in order to get Manchester United back onto a level footing and to get them back strong again. Look, it seems like these financial results have come out now, and it seems like Manchester United are in a healthier, stronger position. There's still a hell of a lot more work to do, obviously, but it's really important to know after these results that have come out for Q3 in the season, I think it is, up until March the 31st. United are looking a lot better, I think, and there's still lots of work to do. They need to clear the decks, they need to raise their cash position, and they need to sell and to buy some players over the course of this summer as well. And it's not looking too bad, is it? A new bid for Bryan Mbeumo is in as well. I've been saying Mbeumo over the last few days, and I think Mbeumo is the right way to say it. And you've got to get that right if he's going to be playing for Manchester United, which is looking more and more likely to happen now over the course of, yes, Rugby Itch is there. Hi, Scott. New bid from Mbeumo, above 60 million confirmed. Notice how the 60 million, above 60 million number has come in, and we chuck away those add-ons. You have to report the highest price, obviously. Guys, get in the live chat if you can, and I need to. Maybe I'll do a section if you're still here towards the end. Maybe I'll do a section of just firing back and forth in the live chat, just so you guys can get in touch and ask me a few questions if you have any. Obviously, King Eric, I noticed you were here the other day. Hey Scott, hello mate. David Bullen for the first time, first chance to be live. Thanks so much for joining, mate. King Eric says the boys are due home from school any second, so we'll catch as much of this as possible. Priorities have to come first. Obviously, I will completely understand if you have to catch up later on. Gary J says happy Friday all. Suvik is back as well. Hi Scott, hello mate. Mark says love your channel, come on United. And look, I think thank you very much for starters, and I think that United are, look, honestly, you don't really want to go and just look, the last season's finished, right? So I think it's nice now to be able to just look ahead rather than look at the misery that we had served up to us every single week, or every single time United stepped out on the pitch. They're addressing the right areas, and fingers crossed, with fewer matches, like 15 to 20 fewer matches next season, maybe United can make an impact in the league. Kush says, any truth on the rumours around Kobbie being sold? Honestly, I don't know for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I think if they got the right money for a player, you saw it with Bruno Fernandes, 100 million quid. They would have sold him if Bruno wanted to go. If Kobbie wants to go, I don't see a natural place for him in the team at the moment. And it pains me to say it, and it would absolutely pain me to see Kobbie go. But what's more important? Is it the team and the team working, or is it one single player? Is it the history and the academy? Yes, of course it is. Kobbie Mainoo is the player that I would not like to see leave Manchester United. The highest, the most important player to me for United's future, for me. But it doesn't necessarily mean he will end up staying. King Eric says, like you said plenty, we've hit the bottom and we can move forward again. Exactly. That's exactly how I feel at the moment. Ben says, Mainoo's young enough to find a role, though. I'm not worried. That's probably the right approach to take, I would think, because, look, how old is he now? 19? Is he still only 19? I'm just going to quickly Google that. No, 20 years old. He turned 20 in April, right? So when you think, like, it's David Beckham's getting a knighthood, right? And I haven't got this in the running order, but David Beckham growing up, for me, was my favorite player, right? After Eric Cantona. But David Beckham was on loan at Preston at like, I think he was at like 21 on loan at Preston. And he only really kind of hit the scene at the age, because I remember reading about him in the newspapers and stuff like that. It would go David Beckham 23. And that was when he was really like hitting the top levels and starting to become the player that he became. So, you know, there is lots of time for Kobbie Mainoo as well. I know the player breakouts like Messi since 18 and Yamal at 16 or 17 or whatever it is makes people think that, you know, these players have to break out and be first team ready and first team regulars at 18, 17 or whatever it is. And that has to be the way that it is. But also those players tend to burn out a little sooner. So maybe a slow integration into the team and a slow work into the system for Kobbie Mainoo is probably the best way to go. Beckham leaving was one of the worst days of an otherwise happy childhood for me, says Suvik. And honestly, when I think the saddest one for me was when Eric Cantona retired, because I was young enough. I heard it on the news, on ITV News. I think it was a summer's day. I remember I had the CD player on, and I think my mum told me to turn it off because Eric Cantona was on the news, and I found out that he'd retired. And he was my first favorite United player that I had. Suvik again says, do these moves for Cunha and Mbeumo signal less reliance on the academy next season? I don't think so, necessarily. I mean, you don't want the academy to be like... You want to use the academy at your leisure when players are ready, you know, and obviously United need to respect that history and bring players through the academy, but you don't want to throw players in before they're ready as well. So there's a lot of, you know... I'm sure there's a lot of players coming through, but I think United, first of all, they just needed to make sure that these players that they have and that they're signing are of the right age to be able to deliver straight away, to take the pressure off the team and start scoring some goals to make sure United win matches. Thomas Watkin, fellow Welshman, I believe. Hello again, mate. Dream midfield signing next to Bruno. I'm very much on the Carlos Baleba train, but he's going to cost so much money. I think United need to try and start finding players like that before they move to Brighton. You know, I think that's the thing for me. The most important thing. Anyway, I've been rambling on for like 7.5 minutes already. I'm going to have another sip of water just before I start getting on. So I'm going to talk today about Viktor Gyokeres. I'm going to talk today about some of the social media slander that I'm seeing around him, because obviously when a player gets linked with Manchester United, they're a little bit worse a player. And, you know, I'm firmly, I think he would have been my top pick. There's some awesome news as well. I think around whether he's going to arrive or not, I make that, looking at how things are going, probably a little bit more unlikely at present time, just because of like wage demands, this kind of thing. And according to, I think it was ESPN, Mark Ogden, that said that Manchester United don't see him as the right fit for their team. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I think Gyokeres, hands down, is probably a really good fit given where he's played before, given who he's worked with before in terms of Ruben Amorim, the system, this kind of thing. So I'll talk about him. I'll talk a little bit about the financials that United have put out as well, and Bryan Mbeumo as well, and some of the messages that are coming out, and you know, just, you know, I think United being a bit of a healthier place. That's the most important thing. Let me know how my sound is, by the way. If I've had some trouble downloading the file to upload it as a podcast afterwards. Let me know how the file, or how the volume sounds. I hope it's okay. But I had some issues with my mic the other day, saying I was talking about things and then I saw like the mute button flash up every now and again. So I'm still a noob to this. Manpreet says, hey Scott, been here since the gas tank times. Love your calm take on United. You provide a much sensible break from all the... Yeah, I've seen those videos. But yeah, that's my way of trying to, you know, like I've been saying, this is a point I wanted to tie in the end, but we've already mentioned it. There was so much negativity around Manchester United for so long, right? And understandably, because the team have been crap this season. They've been absolutely awful. It's been terrible to watch. No trophies, no Champions League, no Europa League, no nothing. But all the decisions made by INEOS, there's been so much criticism for the decisions that they have taken in terms of, look, letting staff go is awful. It's absolutely terrible. And people have had to suffer because of that. And I don't condone that for a second. But at the same time, you've got to, and this is the way, what I was telling myself and what I've said on this podcast. You can subscribe on Apple and Spotify, by the way, if you've not done so already. Please do. The Promised Land of Manchester United podcast. What I've been saying throughout the last year or so, when it was very difficult to say it as well, is that I do think that these guys have United's best interests at heart. I actually do. I really do. And when you get financial results like this that have come out and been released today from Q3, look, United aren't out of the woods yet by any means, but at the same time, you can see what they've been doing, the decisions they've taken, and how it's benefiting United's bottom line. You know, cutting expenses means that United have a little bit more wiggle room. And now they've gone and potentially signed 2 number 10s to address their first team straight away from next season. Like straight away, within, what day are we on? Friday the 6th of June. And they've already got there with potentially 2 signings already. And this window hasn't been open a week yet. Jonathan Ball says, "Hi, mate. I've liked the stream." Yes, please do that, guys. If you're here and you're new, or if you haven't, or if you're not, please like the stream. Absolutely like the stream, because this channel does need to grow. I'm not seeing enough likes on the video at the moment. I can't believe I've just said that I'm not seeing enough likes on the video at the moment, but that's what you have to do on YouTube, I guess. Yeah, like the video, get in the comments, and please subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. And also, tell your friends as well. If you have United friends who you think have had enough of United, but they want something to just listen to, and it's more of a, you want more of a calmer take. If you guys are watching this, you've been watching for a while, hopefully you enjoy the calmer takes. Tell your friends. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, right. So let's get into Viktor Gyokeres, because I think there's been some significant movements into, or just like maybe a changing of the guard in a sense. Look, Viktor Gyokeres has absolutely smashed goals for Sporting, for Ruben Amorim, for Coventry as well over the last few years. And there's a gentleman's agreement with him and Sporting now for him to leave this summer for 65 million euros, I believe. I think that's the price, right? That is 54.7 million pounds if you translate it. Wayne Fairclough says, "Just found the channel, liked and subscribed. Thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate the support." And everybody else, if you've not done so already, please do that. And yeah, Jonathan Ball gives a really good explanation that I haven't used in this video yet. But defo live by the mantra, never too high, never too low, with my footballing opinion nowadays. And that's the whole idea. For those of you, if you are new here, I've been doing this podcast for about, and not really on YouTube. Obviously, this is a new YouTube channel, moving across from the old one. Myself and my friend, my colleague, Rob Blanchette, have been doing this podcast for a few years now. And we lost him last year. Massively sad, unfortunate, horrible time. It was around this time last year. And it is... not now. Oh, mad. Scott, are you wearing a wig? No, I'm not. I just do definitely need a haircut. I was talking about Rob there for a second. It is, look, it's been a incredibly difficult year or so. But people asked me to continue the pod, and I have tried. It's been really, really tough to do it because Rob was, I loved chatting to him. I loved his takes, and why we had common ground was because we both saw the scene, we both saw the difficulty around United, and we saw the hot takes and the not so hot takes, and we just thought never too high, never too low was the best way to approach. So yeah, loved Rob. We always miss him, and yes, we do indeed. But if you're new here, that's maybe an explanation of the podcast. This channel is just new. It's just brand new. I've had lots of problems with streaming and this kind of thing on the old channel that we established. But I took the plunge, and I think it's probably the best way now to go ahead and launch this new channel to talk about loads of stuff. Thanks, guys, for all your support as well. Manpreet says, I'll get into Gyokeres now. There are some concerns on Gyokeres. A heavy percentage of his goals are penalties. His first touch is not that good. And when you're in United, the pressure is insane. Look what it did to Rasmus. Yeah, I get that. I completely get that. But at the same time, how many strikers out there at the moment are the perfect fit for what United want? There ain't many for me. I think Gyokeres is, I think he has enough history personally to be able to justify the fee. For £54.7 million is less than Cunha and is less than what Mbeumo would be if that asking price is met. Now, we don't even know how that'll be made up with add-ons and how the payments will be staggered and this kind of thing. We don't know at the moment. But I think United need to... I think the thumbnail in this video, it says find the money or something like that. And like, obviously, I think that is the right approach to me. I think you look at Osimhen, you look at the likes of Jonathan David, who's available on a free transfer. Sesko, I think, is too young for United to take a risk on at the moment. And how many other top strikers with the records like Gyokeres has had, or has, how many top strikers are out there at the moment? For me, I think Gyokeres is the one. This is a guy who's like smashed goals in the Championship, smashed goals under Ruben Amorim, knows the system, knows the manager, is probably ready for that next step up. Yes, of course, moving from Portugal to the Premier League is difficult for a lot of players. The likes of Darwin Núñez have moved over and flopped in the Premier League, not going to lie. That was... and he could be off to Saudi Arabia now. United need to make sure that they don't make the same mistakes. But at the same time, for me, there aren't many strikers out there who are as strong a prospect for Manchester United's front line as Viktor Gyokeres is. I think the fact that he's played in the Championship already as well is really something that stands him in good stead. He has experience of playing against English defences, those mean English defenders who are right on top of you. And Mateta as well, yeah, I think so, but Mateta has never, ever offered the kind of goal output that Gyokeres has. Mateta is a strong Premier League player and has found his footing, but if you look at Mateta's goal record for the 2 seasons before this one, or maybe the 2 seasons before the last 2 seasons, he's never really been a prolific goal scorer at all. And I think United really need that out of a striker as top option anyway. And Mateta could cost a hell of a lot of money as well. But I think, look, he's the Gyokeres is the cheapest of the 3 attackers that United could end up getting if they get him for that 65 million euro fee. The rumours are gathering pace because I'm seeing the path open up, and I'm seeing that United seem to be prioritising a move for him as well, which is really encouraging. So there's a couple of things that obviously United need to be aware of and need to make sure that they get right. We've had the financial results come out. We knew by the end of March, or by March 31st, that there was a 73.2 million cash balance in the club at the end of March. That had fallen down, I'm guessing, due to payments that are made out. Patrick Dorgu's fee has probably come into that as well, and it was painted in certain places as United's cash reserves are lower than they were before. But obviously, I think on the whole, the financial report was quite good compared to where United have been previously. Jonathan Ball there says, I think Mateta is a good choice, but Palace will want premium price. I completely agree. Look, I think Gyokeres for me I've been toying between Gyokeres and Osimhen for a little while. But Osimhen's never done it in the Premier League either. I know some people rate him highly, but then there's a lot of baggage. There's a lot of look how he's fallen out with Napoli, and look at the difficulties it's going through now. Does he go to Al Hilal, Galatasaray, and all this stuff? And why haven't a Premier League club previously taken a chance on Viktor Osimhen before this point? I'm not saying that he won't absolutely smash it in the Premier League, but I think he's probably a less expensive option and maybe just as risky. I don't know. Some people have their own preferences. I do like Viktor. I do like Viktor Osimhen. Look, the truth is, I'll be happy if United get either of those strikers, because what I want in the end of the day is United to have a centre forward of the right age, of the right experience, who has the highest chance of hitting the ground running in the Premier League. That's exactly what I'm after. Suvik says there, Osimhen's wage demands are the issue. It would break the club's wage structure, and that's really important to make sure you maintain. United have to do a hell of a lot of work on that, because they're still correcting it. I think Casemiro is the club's highest earner at the moment. Bruno Fernandes is up there. Marcus Rashford, when he's back at the club, will be back up there as well. Jadon Sancho will be back up there. And like, Casemiro isn't wanted. He won't stay beyond the season that's coming up, even if he stays over the summer. Marcus Rashford is on his way out of the club this summer. Jadon Sancho isn't wanted either. So these are all really expensive players that United have been paying when they're not of any use to the team. And Jadon Sancho's case, he's never been a success at United at all. So United need to make sure that they they need to maximize the hit rate on the signings that they're getting. And I think as people may be burned by the fact that Erik ten Hag had worked with players before and he brought them in and they didn't work under him in the Premier League at Manchester United. But I think Ruben Amorim and the system that he wants to play depends on physicality, depends on high energy. And that is a better translation to the Premier League than I think what Erik ten Hag was trying to do with the players that he was trying to sign. So for me, I think Gyokeres is... This path might have well opened up today, because I think from what we're seeing from, I think it's Fabrizio Romano who's confirmed the news in the last hour or so, that Arsenal now are advancing in negotiations for Benjamin Sesko after initial concrete talks were reported last week. Discussions are underway, and I think Arsenal want to get him for around under 70 million euros or something like that. But Benjamin Sesko is the younger version, and maybe Arsenal, this version of the Arsenal team, can afford to take a risk on a younger striker like that at this point. And what the big sticking point for me was, well, will Arsenal want to go for Viktor Gyokeres? And if they do, that might get in United's way, because Arsenal are much closer to challenging for the title at the moment than United are. And because Arsenal are in the Champions League, because Arsenal have that one position at number 9, which seems to be like the position that will take the team up to the next level. Whereas United need to do loads and loads of work. They've done effectively 2 signings by this point now. So we'll see how this plays out. But it's, for me, I'm quite encouraged, because Arsenal moving out of the line and going with Sesko means now to me that United are one of the teams that are as strong in the race for Viktor Gyokeres as anybody else. I mean, there's been links with Juventus, Paris Saint-Germain. Obviously, if Paris Saint-Germain come knocking, then that's potentially a problem. But Gyokeres has played in England previously. He's played for Brighton. He's played for, I think, Swansea. He's played for Coventry as well. There's this thing of playing in the Premier League that has massive appeal. And like, I know Juventus are in the Champions League. I think it was mentioned to me maybe on Twitter earlier that Juventus are in the Champions League, and wouldn't he choose Juventus? Juventus are in disarray. They have been in disarray for a long time. And in Serie A, it's obviously a weaker league than the Premier League is at the moment. And that playing in the Premier League does appeal to a lot of players, even if it is playing for 15th place Manchester United. And I think United need to make sure that that they perform better than they did last year. But Atletico Madrid as well. Yeah, maybe, but they don't really have that type of money to drop on players at the moment either. I think they're signing a player from Real Betis, Johnny Cardoso, I think, which could potentially open the door. And they've also got other players like Julian Alvarez is in there. If they end up selling him, potentially they're looking for another option. They've got other players in attack as well. Sorloth is there as well. Lots of different players. So I honestly think that the way that it's looking, I think United have to go and do Mbeumo first, but I think the way that it's looking, United stand a decent chance at the moment. I'm just going to dig through some of your comments here. Jonathan again says, another problem with Osimhen is dealing with Napoli. They're such a difficult club to deal with. Reason Osimhen to Saudi fell through is because they suddenly upped the price after agreeing a deal. Like, De Laurentiis has a mind of his own. He can change it like that in the snap of a finger. And United dealt with Napoli last year. United are probably going to deal with Napoli a little bit over Garnacho as well. But really, I think for me, Gyokeres to me is the safest option, especially if United create the space and the cash that they have in the bank in order to go and sign him. I think this to me depended on 2 things, and the Gyokeres chase depended on 2 things. What Arsenal do, because we knew that they were looking at both Sesko and Gyokeres. Which one would they go for? It seems like they're moving down the direction of Sesko now. And to me, I think, as I just said, the Arsenal team being more experienced and more complete than the United team is, means that they can probably go with the younger option. So I think Sesko is a good striker as well. But, I think that's potentially opened the door for United. The other thing that I think will determine how aggressively and how quickly United can go for Gyokeres is probably the cash position and how much they end up putting down up front for Bryan Mbeumo. We know that United have signed Matheus Cunha for £62.5 million from Wolves, but those payments are staggered over 20.8 million a time. So I think 20.8 million, the first installment is due on July the 1st, and then it's the same thing for the next 2 years after that. It is that is obviously, I think that's going to come out of the cash position at that point. How much does it leave left? United have got to pay, as Jim Ratcliffe has said, they've got to pay about £89 million for transfers that they've already agreed to and paid for, but are still paying off. So I'm not sure exactly where that comes from and how that affects the cash position. But if they can get to a point where, with signing Bryan Mbeumo, where they put a similar amount down and they do that in installments as well. And yes, you don't want to kick it down the road the entire time, but at the same time, if United are confident enough in their recruitment this time and the recruitment that they do actually works, then you can maybe afford to take that risk. They got to back themselves. They got to do things a lot smarter. And if they have that kind of extra little bit to play with to open Gyokeres talks and potentially pay like a third of the fee for him as well, then maybe United can get on with moving on that transfer pretty soon, pretty sharpish. But also the massive thing as well is how well can United sell? Marcus Rashford, Anthony, Alejandro Garnacho, Terrell Malacia, lots and lots of players that United need to get off the books. But the way things are going with Rashford as well, I think that Marcus Rashford transfer could probably drag on a hell of a lot. Barcelona have shown a bit of reticence to actually pay up for Rashford, and they've tended to, wanting to go for like a loan deal that we've seen so far. Though they have inquired about Luis Diaz this week and been pushed back, obviously. But it does suggest to you that maybe they do have some cash in the bank to burn, even though they're signing a goalkeeper as well. So, look, United need to sell well. We know that anyway. They need to get players that are unwanted completely off the books. In an ideal world, try and get and claw back as much money in upfront transfer fees as actually possible, but we will see. Hacker says Villa should swap Sancho for Rashford, cheaper for them. Potentially, but we'll look. Have you seen Villa's PSR position? I think that's a difficult one for them to do at the moment. King Eric says there, the sales dragging on is our biggest obstacle in the summer. I think, yeah, I agree. I completely do agree. Anthony, for all it's worth, Anthony might actually be the one with the highest chance of getting out the soonest, given how well he played for Betis last season, given the interest in him from Betis. Erik ten Hag potentially wants to take him to Leverkusen as well, and they could have 100 million euros, 100 million pounds or so from selling Florian Wirtz, and they'll want to replace him. So fingers crossed. When you talk for ages, I tell you, you got to guzzle that water down. Sorry if it's coming across in the mic. But look, Jonathan says there, I wonder if they want to swap Onana for Sancho. I think, look, Onana as that central midfield partner for Bruno Fernandes, that kind of profile, I think would go down really well. I do think that United will have to do that position in the summer. I would really like United to sign a goalkeeper over the course of the summer as well. And I think striker, after Mbeumo goes through, and we'll talk about him in a little bit, striker, central midfield, and goalkeeper, for me, they have to do those positions with strong personalities and strong players, strong physicality this summer. I think they have to do it. So fingers crossed, we see what they do. Right, so just before I get on, I'm going to talk about Bryan Mbeumo in a second. Just before I get on, please, if you follow me on Twitter at @_Scott Saunders, I did tweet to say that I was going live on this channel 50 minutes ago at @_Scott Saunders. If you could go over there and please retweet that or something. Please like this video if you've not done so already. Please subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already, because I'm trying to grow this channel. Maybe I will do it through live streams in the future. This is the third one I've done so far, and I really appreciate the support. Please like the video. I'm going to refresh the video to see how many likes we got. It's okay. But we're pushing up the subscribers, so please join if you've not done so already, and we'll go on in a second with Bryan Mbeumo. But I'll just touch on the financials a little bit more. So I think, just to double back on the point I made earlier, that United have said today that I think Simon Stone put it out. He's had a bit of stick for this on the BBC, but he said United are privately saying that they're willing to do disciplined investments this summer. Even though he was tweeting that out publicly, he's had a little bit of stick for that. But that's what United's plan is. Disciplined investment to make sure that they get the signings right, to make sure that they're responsible with what they're spending. And I think if you're shopping in that 50 to 60 million ballpark on players that are proven in the Premier League, you know the kind of level. This isn't like untried players from other clubs in other leagues, so you don't know if they got the physicality, you don't know if they can hang in the league with the speed of it, that kind of thing. These aren't like massively risky signings. And any other signings you make from other leagues, potentially they will be. But I think United are going about this sensibly to kind of raise the floor that they're at the moment in order to make him to perform better in the Premier League, especially when they've got like one game a week moving forward. The fact that I think United needs to make sure that they use that to their advantage over the course of the season. Raise the level of the physicality of the team, raise the intensity, the speed the team are able to play at, and chances are you might, if your intensity level raises and you're playing against teams, like there's 9 teams from the Premier League next season that are in Europe, if you raise that level, then chances are you're going to be fresher than a lot of teams you're playing against. So maybe you'll end up coming out on top in the physical battles as well. Jonathan says, yeah, I dropped Twitter, just became too toxic. Honestly, I noticed earlier, you do this like doom scrolling thing. I was doing that a little bit earlier on. And oh my God, some of the nonsense, the Trump versus Elon stuff, my God, and all of the arguments about between football fans about what their club is doing versus what my club is doing. The complaints about Ryan Cherky not going to Manchester City and all this. I know you might like Ryan Cherky, but again, yes, he's a bargain. And yes, Manchester City might make him into a fantastic football player, but is he the exact right profile for what United need? Or is he just a massive risk for United? Even though he's incredibly talented, is he the exact type of player that United will want? For me, I think I saw a video of Ruben Amorim as well, actually, signing autographs outside Old Trafford a few months ago, where he was asked about Cherky, and he just shook his head and laughed. So it is, Manpreet says that on Cherky, it's sad to see him go to City. They destroyed Grealish. Yeah, it is sad to see players like that go over there to kind of be restricted to that kind of football, even though Pep has obviously been incredibly successful over the course of his career. Does it guarantee that he'll be a success there? Not necessarily. He had a cracking game last night, though, didn't he? So, look, he's a risk he's a really, really talented player that a lot of clubs could have taken a risk on, but chose not to. Man City are the team that chose to go with him. Look, for me, I think United need more. I like the Cunha and Mbeumo signings, personally. I like them, and that's one of the positions that he would have played in. They have the right profiles, and fingers crossed they'll be able to instantly fit in and raise the floor of the team. So, Robbie there says, "Attaboy Scott, great to catch you live. Hope all is well. All is good. Thank you very much." There's a lot of comments coming in. Keep them coming in, guys. I really appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already, and like the video as well. If you want me to do more lives as well, get in the comments or the comments underneath the video. Let me know if this time is good, because I've been unsure what to do when. Maybe when today there's stuff to talk about, for example. But what time can you guys make it for would be especially the guys who join. I think I've done 3 this week, and a few of you have actually been here for all 3. I definitely join a Discord group. I've been told and asked about that before. I've been thinking to do it, but never got around to it. So if you guys are up for it, let me know, and maybe I'll look into potentially making one. But prefer evenings, says David. So yeah, okay. This time on a Friday is great. I think this is what's been working out for me. So fingers crossed. Maybe I'll continue around in the afternoons, and maybe if there's room for the morning as well, then potentially I can go ahead and do more lives there. But also subscribe to the podcast as well, the Promisam podcast on Spotify and Apple. Just search that, and if you want audio versions of this, you can get them on both audio platforms, or whatever audio platform you do like to use. Anyway, let's talk Bryan Mbeumo, because United's second bid is in. I'm just checking my social feed and just seeing if there's any updates. The second bid is in. It's obviously been reported at £60 million. And that's how you have to report it. I did do a pod the other day, I think it was yesterday actually, speaking about how much it would take to get Bryan Mbeumo in. United's first bid was 45 plus 10, wasn't it? 45 plus 10, taking a total package to £55 million. And there's suggestions that maybe United are overpaying a little bit here, but I think when you do pay the price that you paid for Cunha and his release clause fee, Mbeumo arguably has had a better he has had a better season than Cunha, really. So arguably Brentford are within their rights to ask for a similar fee. I think United need to be a bit more clever with this one, though, and make sure that they try and strike a deal. If it is over 60 million quid, that can't be full committal. It's got to be add-ons dependent. Maybe, I think I said yesterday, around 50 million fixed. However you stagger that, however you want to pay that, whatever Brentford will accept over a course of years. I think that's okay and that's acceptable, but I think the add-ons have to be, based on United actually being successful. We'll see. I think the way this is looking, Ben Jacobs has said Man United's second bid has now been placed, and Bryan Mbeumo is over £60 million. So I think that's what Brentford were holding out for, to be honest. Rugby Itch says, yeah, I just realized you've had a tough year with both Wales Rugby. And yes, don't remind me. It's been absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. Wales football's going well, though. I think Wales are playing Liechtenstein tonight. Yeah, Liechtenstein tonight. Question here from Hacker. I'll get back to Mbeumo in a second. I had thought United would invest in younger players for the longer term. Is next season a must-win silverware season? I've said this a few times on the pod over the last few weeks, and maybe I'll repeat myself here now. I think United need to, obviously, players like Mbeumo and Cunha of that age, of that. I didn't like to mention the rugby. I think the type of players that United are going for at the moment, the ages that they're going for, they need to make sure their attack delivers. And I think taking the risk in signing younger players who aren't particularly adapted to the Premier League is a big risk, as we've seen with Højlund, right? So I think spending big on players like that who you think can do a job for you in the Premier League because they have done it for other teams in the Premier League is the smartest thing to do. But they do have to underpin that with signing high-quality younger players. And I think that's where Christopher Vivell will come in over the course of the next few years even, to try and identify those players like Sekou Kone. Aiden Heaven's been picked out as well. Maybe you go a little bit further. Maybe Patrick Dorgu falls into this. Those younger players who might cost a little bit more money but can play around your first team and eventually develop into first team players. I think that's really important. Suvik says, this has got to be the final offer. Yeah, I agree. More than 60 million plus add-ons will be too much. Mike Mitchell's here as well. Sorry I missed most of your live. Is Gyokeres only interested in PL clubs? If so, it feels like it might happen. No worries at all about missing the live, but I don't exactly state the time that I'm going to be actually going live, so I just have sprung it on you. If you have a specific time that I'd like to go live, that you'd like me to go live, then let me know and I'll maybe see what suits everyone. But we don't know. But I think there's an appeal for a lot of players, especially players who played in England before, to go and play and smash it in the Premier League. And I think Gyokeres probably falls into that category. If you look at it, like, he's probably going to get a better payday here than Juventus. And if PSG come into the race, then maybe there's a problem. But yeah. Ben McManus says, Fernandes, Maguire and Casemiro are only over 30 players. It's a young squad. I'm trying to think there. Probably now. Ericsson's gone. Lindelof's gone. Yeah, potentially. Johnny Evans is gone as well. Tom Heaton's still there. It depends if you count him, but I think he's going to stay for another season. But like, back to Mbeumo. We have seen, like, I think, as it was said just now, Suvik, I think it was who said it. I think United are getting to the point now where I think that bid has to really be accepted, and you have to make sure that around that point of money, They just need to make sure that they're finding the right agreement with Brentford. But I don't think it's actually too far off. I don't think personal terms will be an issue either. And as much as like it's been floating around that United are looking at, or Mbeumo wants 250k a week, you know exactly where that kind of report has come from. And I have seen reports from the Newcastle side over the last hour or so, which have said that Newcastle are unhappy with having selling clubs to them placing a Saudi tax on what they want, which players they're trying to sign, which I thought was pretty funny. But it is, look, I think there was a suggestion earlier from, I can't remember who exactly said it now, but it was touted around for Bryan Mbeumo, 8.5 million a year, which equates to 160k a week ish, 162.5k a week or 165k a week in wages. So we will see how accurate that is. But for me, I think that is the right ballpark to be getting in. I think your firmly established first team players are earning around that much money. I think Lenny Yoro, for example, is on around 115. You've got other players around 120, 110. Ahmad's around that place as well. But if they're established, ready first team players who are going to play regularly in the first team, I think around 150k plus bonuses is probably the right way that you give players exactly what they're worth, but at the same time, don't overspend to the levels that United have been spending before. It's a lot easier to shift players who failed if they're on that kind of wage as well. So, yeah, I think the fact that Mbeumo has actually said, he's told clubs that wanted him, and he's told Brentford as well, the fact that he said that he wants to join Manchester United to them makes United's job in signing him a hell of a lot more easier. And Ben McManus here has said, I think I saw the finances that wage ratio to revenue is 44%, and that's really healthy, so we're on the right track. Yes. And that's obviously United, the report this week around which limited company or which company is audited for PSR. The fact that, I think it was Red Football Limited, wasn't it? The fact that United are now pretty much in the clear for PSR as well, and everyone was looking at the wrong account when judging them on PSR, means that all they have to really worry about at the moment is the amount of cash that they have. And look, the wages to revenue ratio, if it's 44% in the latest numbers, and you look at the likes of the players that they've got to get off the books as well, it hasn't counted at the time the fact that Rashford and Sancho and other players like that have been out on loan, so maybe it isn't taking that into account. I'm not entirely sure. But once you get those players off the wage bill, that is going to look even healthier. So it has, it's really, really, I think United are in a half decent position. Obviously, you can't get too ahead of yourself at the moment because United have been terrible for a long time. But I think, as I said at the top, if this Mbeumo deal goes through, which I think it will at some point in the next few days, you'd think some agreement with Brentford, I'm sure, will be struck. It won't be too difficult to strike personal terms with the player either, if they've not done so already. And then that's a second player in through the door, and then you can go and move on. Hopefully, it will be Gyokeres next for me. I think he's the type of player and the type of striker that United need to go for. And the fact that United, I think they're attacking the transfer market in a different way this summer. And for me, it's encouraging. I think we can put, like I've said, we can put last season behind us, take the lessons from it, and obviously United need to do a hell of a lot in the market in order to raise the physical level of the team so they can compete in the Premier League. But if you do that, and you address the final third, and you sign players that, as has been said, where was it? Sorry for pausing myself there. I did see a comment just now about the XG, and I can't find it. There it is, from David Bullen. Article in The Athletic saying Cunha and Mbeumo were the first and second in XG outperformance last season. You do ask the question at the time, like, how sustainable is that? But it's also really quite encouraging that they are making the most out of the chances that they get. And if United can take more of the chances that they get, then it will give them a hell of a lot easier a time in winning matches. Get your comments in. I'm going to wrap up in just a second, but if you have any more comments, I'll try and flash through them now before I shoot off. But just before I do, just remember, all the negativity that has been surrounding United over the last year or so, I have been saying, like, don't overreact to this. And it's really easy to get caught up in it. It's really easy to get caught up in all the decisions that are being made. But hopefully with these financial results that come out today, even though there's a hell of a lot more work to do, United need to sell players, They need to sell well, and there's that jury's out on whether they can actually do that at the moment. But I don't think you can doubt the intention of what the people in charge have been doing over the last year or so, because all they've been doing is trying to make sure that they cut the cost down. Now they have to do the hard part in shifting the players out. They are a lot more difficult to shift out. But fingers crossed, I think they've shown I've said a few times, they've shown a hell of a lot of ruthlessness to the staff, and it has come across terribly. But they need to maintain that for the players as well. And if they do, they'll be in a really healthy, in comparison, healthy financial position. But yeah, get in the comment section. I'm going to scroll up. Mike Mitchell again says, any set time works for me. I'll certainly listen in while I work between 7 and 3. There are rumors that United might now be able to afford Gyokeres before sales. You heard anything on that? I did spend some time talking about that a little bit earlier in the show. So I did say it really, for me, it depends on the cash position that we know. It depends how much they raise in sales to me and how much they actually put down for Bryan Mbeumo as well. We know that they're looking at over 60 million quid as a fee, but how much of that is going to be paid down now? How much of that is going to be staggered? How much is in add-ons? Lots of stuff. I think it's important to know about that. And maybe if they have a little bit of set space, maybe they can open the Gyokeres talks and potentially work something out similar. Just a few more comments. Robbie says, you're 100% right, Scott. Contracts have to be incentivized. We made Rashford the highest paid player at the club after scoring 17 league goals. Where would he then get any motivation to do more? I remember speaking to Rob about this when it happened. I was like, why do they need to give him such a high contract? They didn't need to. They just didn't need to. And they're so much more difficult to shift. Harish, hey mate, even if United sign a striker, second, number 10, a goalkeeper, and pay them 200k a week, we'll still end up saving money if we're within the limits, if we end up selling players they want to. Yeah, I mean, to me, like 150 to 200k for like a first team player who's really established and really good is the kind of level that United should be at anyway. It's kind of normal for Premier League clubs. Obviously, there should be younger players as well, should come into this like much lower down, but it's the importance of correcting the wage structure, I think, is massive. Absolutely massive for United. Ben says, does anyone think there's a way back for Højlund? He's looked broken all season, but he's still young. For me, I think there's a player there. I think he will do well if he ends up leaving, especially if he goes back to Serie A and signs for Inter on a permanent deal. I think United will be asked a lot of questions about, oh, they had this player, they didn't get the best out of him, and now he's smashing it in another league. I definitely think Garnacho will be a case like that. Absolutely. I think if United hadn't needed cash so deeply, maybe it ends up with a loan with an option to buy. Maybe Højlund has a really good season, and Højlund goes out on loan, and then United decide that they want him back at the end. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I do think there's a player in there. As much criticism and stick as he's had, his first season showed to me that he does have something. He does have something. First touch is obviously a big problem, but you know, I think there's something there. He's got the right instinct for me. Suvik again says, look, even if we get 10 goals from each of these two guys, we'll finish top 6. The defensive numbers are actually pretty good. Yeah. I think United conceded 44 goals last season in the Premier League in 38 games. And while that meant a lot of the games were absolutely tragic to watch, I think the defensive side and the system, there were some matches where they gave up a lot of easy goals, obviously. But I think in general, I think what needs to be addressed here is the attack. Absolutely. Which player do you least want to have? From Hacker. Oh, least want to leave. Least want to leave. Jonathan Ball says Mainu, and I would agree. I would like to keep Mainu. He's the one. He's the one. Jonathan Ball again says, I wanted INEOS to loan him to Nice for a couple of years to develop him. And yeah, that would be, in an ideal world, potentially be the right scenario. But I think with the fact that United need money, and with the fact that United need to make sure that they reinvest that money, and they'll probably be buying a striker at the age of 26, 27, who will be there for 5 years, best case scenario, or longer potentially. taking up those minutes, maybe there isn't ever going to be a chance for Højlund to be that centre forward that I think he was signed to be longer term than this, because he's had his chance. Jonathan again says, I think there's a big difference between Højlund's and Garnacho's attitudes that makes me prepared to try and give Højlund time. I agree, but I do think Garnacho will go away and probably have a really good career somewhere else. Anyway, that's the risk that United have to take. United have to get these players out and just make sure that they concentrate on the players that Ruben Amorim thinks can do a job for this team now. And just make sure that they get on and they start performing to the levels that they need to be performing at. And we'll see how it goes. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining. It's been 50 odd minutes of this, and I will take your live comments and try and decide on a time. I am going away next week to a wedding from about Wednesday through Saturday, Sunday. So there will be some days where I can't go live because I'll be in the sun. But yeah, it's I do plan on going live a hell of a lot more. So if you like this, then please let me know in the comment section underneath this. And I will endeavor to do more. And hopefully this will mean the channel can grow a little bit. If you're watching this now and you are subscribed to it, or if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. Please make sure you leave a like on the way out. Please make sure, if you've been in the live chat as well, please leave a comment underneath the video just to kind of get the engagement up on the video, because I need this to go to more people. We've got 300 subscribers. And this, I've never really, up until like this week, I think I've only ever done like 1 or 2 lives before on my own. So hopefully I'm doing okay. But I really appreciate the support from you guys. And hopefully we can do, maybe we can do 1 or 2 of these a day moving forward, especially over the summer when it's a really busy time. Hopefully the channel can grow. And please subscribe to the audio podcast as well if you've not done so already. You can get similar things to this, but just in audio form. Really appreciate the support on Spotify and Apple. And one more comment. Ben says, one day we'll have our Discord and never be too high, never too low. Maybe I'll call it NTHNTL or something like that. Whatever. Guys, lads stream from Greece, please. Hacker, you would like that one. You would like that one. I'm going with all the work lads. So I'm sure that you would enjoy that one, but we will see. Anyway, thanks so much, guys, for jumping in. Thanks for the comments. Please do everything that I've just asked you to do. Would be really, really grateful if you could do that. And I'll be back. Maybe I'll be back as well over the weekend. We'll see how it goes. We'll see. If you're not busy, then I think there's a lot to talk about. Then maybe I'll jump on. But thanks so much for watching, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe. Follow me on social as well at @_Scott Saunders on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And until next time, let's hope United get this one over the line and we can move forward onto Viktor Gyokeres, potentially. See you soon.